And I now call on Alec Rowley to be followed by George Adam, a general 6 minutes.
Presiding Officer, I would also welcome this report and congratulate those on the committee clerks and others who worked on this report. I did sit on the committee for the first part of the evidence, and I did enjoy the evidence sessions. But I think the committee report only takes us a certain way, and this debate today, whilst other than Jamie McGrigor, I've not heard anybody actually talk in favour of TTIP. But this cannot be the end of it, and then we blame Westminster, or we blame Europe, or we blame some other unelected quango across in Europe. This Parliament and the government in Scotland, if we believe this is a bad deal for Scotland, then we need to start to set out the case against that deal and look at how we campaign and put a stop to it. There is a bit of confusion. In 2013, Nicola Sturgeon spoke to the European Policy Centre in Brussels, and she said, I quote, "Earlier this month, the European Union and the US announced that they would work to establish a transatlantic trade and investment partnership." She then went on to say, for Scotland, for whom the USA is our largest trading partner outside the EU, such a partnership will be especially good news. So that was the position of the Scottish Government back in 2013. The position seems to have moved a bit for there, and they seem to recognise that perhaps it's not as good news, but we do need clarity. Because what struck me when the evidence was being given was that there were some big claims being made about this deal and how good this deal would be. One of the submissions, for example, talked about raising global prosperity. And when challenged, they were not able to actually back that up with any evidence. And that, perhaps, is the key point, that there has been many claims made about what this would be good for, but no evidence to back it up. And I think the evidence coming for the STUC and for the trade unions has been particularly important. Unison talk about, yes, the NHS, and I hear members today talk about excluding the NHS, but it's not just the NHS, it's actually all public services. And if you were going to go ahead with this deal, then we should be talking about excluding all public services, and we should be removing any investor-state dispute settlement where you could have a large multinational corporation sue a government in order to get access to the public services and access to the funding and access to how we actually govern in our own country in terms of public procurement and how we would set out how we deliver those services. COSLA has also made that point. But even if you get the guarantee on the NHS and the guarantee on public services, and by the way, there are those who are of the opinion that if you were able to secure all those agreements, then actually there would be very little interest in America to come across here and get into some kind of trade agreement, because if they can't get into our public services, our health services, etc., what's actually in it for them? But the question, what's in it for us? Because there has been no evidence given today that actually shows that there would be any major benefits. The TUC, for example, say no authority, including the US trade representatives, the European Commission, the UK or Scottish governments, currently seems able to present a persuasive case on the economics of TTIP. The available evidence points towards a deal that may boost corporate profits, but do little to create quality, sustainable jobs. And when the Scottish Enterprise gave evidence to the committee, that point was made to Scottish Enterprise in terms of they talked about the advantages of America and major employers such as Amazon coming to Scotland. Whilst the government lined up to put millions of pounds of taxpayers' money in Scotland into Amazon, are we really saying that those type of employment practices are the type of employment practices that we would want to support in Scotland? If that's what TTIP has to offer, then would we want that?
I thank the member for taking the intervention. He's saying about any possible benefits or economic benefits. His own MEPs, Labour MEPs, David Martin and Catherine Styler, say that, in a written statement, said TTIP also has great potential for SMEs to access the transatlantic market, too often still only fully accessible to multinational corporations.
Yeah, I accept the point that Jimmy McGregor makes. There are many people lining up to tell us what these advantages would be, but there's no actual evidence being shown to prove it. The STUC go on to say no serious efforts have been made to quantify the impact of TTIP on the Scottish economy. All the evidence presented so far at EU, UK and Scottish level indicates that the best case scenario is a small positive impact on growth and jobs. So there is not been the evidence that's presented. And I would say to the Minister today and to the Scottish Government that they, I believe, need to start to look at these arguments and start to get the analysis into these arguments put to place to actually demonstrate whether or not there is any economic benefits that can be accrued from TTIP, because the evidence certainly would suggest that there is not. Trade agreements have most impact on growth where traditional barriers to trade, tariffs and quotas are high. However, traditional barriers to trade between the US and the EU are already very low. The trade weight tariff protection in the US for EU exports is estimated at 2.1%, while the trade-weighted tariff for the US exports to the EU is estimated at 2.8%. Therefore, removing these already slight barriers will have minimal impact on growth, a conclusion borne out by the very research that the Economic Commission uses to promote the benefits of TTIP. According to the STUC, the very best case scenario presented by the Commission, one that is highly unlikely to be achieved, is 0.5% increase in EU GDP. My suggestion would be that the only people that would benefit from TTIP would be the multinational companies. But I do say to the Scottish Government, it is one thing to bemoan this, it's another to get the evidence and then start to build the case. And if we say TTIP is bad for Scotland, it's bad for the rest of the UK, then we can build a campaign across the UK that says we reject TTIP, we're not going to accept that, we're not going to give up on the terms and conditions and the kind of quality of life that we've put in place for workers across Scotland and across the United Kingdom.
Thanks very much.